It is a glorious day in Philadelphia. I so enjoyed, I don't know if y'all did or not, but I so enjoyed the weather yesterday because I'm from San Diego, where it is about 103 degrees. We are getting some rather intense summer weather, and so I loved the cooler fall weather. I love the torrential rain, and then I love the two rainbows, and the sunset last night was just extraordinary. So Philly is one of my favorite places, so it is so great to be with all of you this morning and to experience the joy and the wonder and the passion of Spirit. So great to be with you. Michael, thank you so much for that song, and I'll talk more about the guest house a little later on, but thank you so much for that. So my topic for today is honoring and celebrating diversity in our experiences. When we hear the word diversity, oftentimes we think of ethnic background or sexual orientation or life experience or that sort of thing. But I'd like to think about diversity in our day-to-day experiences, in our day-to-day lives. I'm so glad you're with me today because I'm going to talk about things we don't ordinarily talk about in New Thought. I love to stir the pot. I just absolutely do. So I'm so glad you're with me. In this teaching that we call religious science or New Thought, or you might come from Unity or Divine Science, but in this teaching, we tend to focus on the positive. We say that everything is in divine order, that everything as it should be. It's all good. Don't worry, be happy. And those statements are absolutely true, but the fact may be that our hearts are breaking. When someone makes their transition, we don't even use the D word and say die. We say they made their transition, they went on to their next experience, all those other things, even though the truth is they died. As spiritual beings having a human experience, can we allow ourselves to have the human experience and to feel what we feel? Because it is all good. It is all in divine order. It is all as it should be. But there are those changes and those heartbreaking experiences in our lives. Can we allow ourselves to feel that rather than beating ourselves up with the Science of Mind textbook? It's an interesting question. There is a Zen saying that you might have heard, "May we exist like a lotus at home in muddy water. Thus we bow to life as it is." Not as it should be, not as we want it to be, not as we wish it were, but bowing to life as it is, in our integrity and our authenticity. Because, and I bet you'll agree with me on this, life is joy and wonder and passion and lusciousness and fabulousness and pain and heartbreak and disappointment and unexpected change. Can we allow ourselves to be with that, to be with all of that, and to experience in our humanness, experience what we're experiencing? In no way am I suggesting that we stay stuck in the mud, but one of my favorite authors and a dear friend who died several years ago, Debbie Ford, wrote, "What we can't be with won't let us be." What we can't be with won't let us be. One of my favorite books, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, she writes about perfectionism. Charming and sparkling, makeup always fixed, hair always perfect, always happy and joyful and blessed and all of that. And in the book she writes, perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. Let me say that again. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live, look, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. But it's a shield. It's a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact it's the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight. Do we allow ourselves to grieve, to feel the hurt, to feel the anger, or do we cover it up with the platitudes that I talked about before? Do we allow ourselves to not be to not be perfect all the time? Because the truth is, I am charming and patient and loving and nurturing and wonderful. And I am also hateful and surly and cranky and impatient. And guess what? So are you. It's the guest house. It's the guest house. We are all of that. I am all of that. Can I allow myself to be all of that? I believe we are still recovering, grieving, and rebuilding after COVID and the pandemic. It's been 3 years, but yet, we remember those experiences that we didn't get to have, the weddings and the baby blessings and the celebrations and the trips of a lifetime and all of those things. We remember the people that died during that time, and we weren't able to get together for a memorial service and a grieving and a time together. My mother died of COVID, and of course, I wasn't able to see her at the end because the doctor called and said, yeah, you can come, but we'll put you in a hazmat suit and go through all the rest of that. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But I believe we're still recovering and we're still grieving as a result of that. So this is a little bit of a different topic for those of us in New Thought, and I want to tell you briefly about how it came to be as a big piece of my ministry. My husband and I were together for 33 years, and he died in the airport in Houston on the way home from the Anton conference in 2018. He had been diagnosed with colorectal cancer and was doing chemotherapy, and the chemo was doing great things for the tumors, but terrible things to his physical body. So I was working as administrator for Anton at the time, really needed to go to the conference, so we went. He was very thin, very weak, in a wheelchair. We flew San Diego to Kansas City. Tuesday night of the conference, he fell in our room and wasn't able to get up. And so I said, we got to go home. So called the airline, changed the reservation on Wednesday to go home on Wednesday, flew Kansas City to Houston, and then took him to the gate, the connecting gate, and left him. Went to the desk to check on our seat assignments, came back to him and found him unresponsive. Went back to the desk, they called 911. The ambulance came and transported him to Memorial Hermann Hospital. They were able to get his heart started again, so they were able to transport him, but his heart stopped on the way to the hospital and they were not able to revive him. So went through that experience of someone dying in a different state from where they live and being 1,500 miles or whatever it was from home. So got everything together, left his body in Houston, came home to San Diego the next day, came home, sat down, and started to grieve. And my ego said, no! You're a religious science minister. Everything is in divine order. Everything is as it should be. You should, one of my favorite words, you should be happy. And I have to admit that I really went through about a year and a half of struggling with this need to allow myself to grieve versus, again, beating myself up with the Science of Mind textbook saying, no, you should be, you recognize that, and those things we tell ourselves, that they're in a better place, that he was 52. So lived a good life. We had 33 years together. You should be grateful for that, at which I was. But do we allow ourselves to feel that? So as a result of that, I created a workshop and love to talk about this, giving us permission to feel what we're feeling and to grieve whatever that loss or whatever that change was. So you've probably heard the terms spiritual bypass and toxic positivity. And those are those wonderful, loving, nurturing statements that are absolutely true, but are not what we're feeling and not what we're thinking as we allow ourselves to process through the grief and the loss. Again, what we can't be with won't let us be. Because whether we want to admit it or not and accept it or not, this life is all about change. The experience of our relationships change. I will always have a relationship with him. He was Jerry also, so if I refer to him as Jerry, please know that I'm okay. I will always have a relationship with Jerry, but he's in a different place, and it's a different kind of relationship than we had before. But this thing called life is all about change in our professional lives, in our day-to-day lives, our business lives. Remember, I was thinking, being in Philadelphia, remember US Air. Remember Wanamaker's. Remember Strawbridge, dating some of us more than others of us, but remember Blockbuster Video. Remember video. All of those things, and for those of us of a certain age, remembering that that's how it was and that's what we depended on and counted on and that's how it was, but things and experiences and technology and all of that, this thing called life, change, and it's different now. Our physical, I don't know about you, but my physical body, thankfully it's a short list, but sometimes we get to a point where we're not able to do what we used to do. Or maybe we don't want to do what we used to do, and that's okay. Our relationships change. Our work life changes. I found this wonderful book titled The 5 Invitations by Frank Ostaseski. And in the book he writes, fragility and impermanence are in the nature of life. It's always just coming together and falling apart. Not just in the physical properties of life and not just at the time of death. And it's possible to hold it all in love and compassion. Now, y'all in the mid-Atlantic at the Northeast know about change, because I don't want to rub it in, but here in a few weeks, you know what's going to happen. The trees are going to drop their leaves, and then it's going to get a little brisk outside. We have about 9 palm trees in San Diego that change color, and that's just about it as far as fall is concerned. But change is all around us. Can we allow ourselves to not only tolerate, not only accept, but embrace change, recognizing there's always something next for us. There's always something new for us. So I created this workshop about grief and loss, and recently recognized that change is through all of this, and the opportunity is there for us to grieve and to feel the loss when there's a change in our lives, no matter what it was. And very often, whether it was a change we wanted or not, there's an opportunity to to grieve that. We're going to talk about that this afternoon starting at 12:30, about grief and loss and change and allowing ourselves to feel our feelings. Would love it if you would join me either in this very room or on Zoom. As you know, the Eagles did what they did Friday night to the Packers, so we don't have to help them win, so you've got your afternoon free, so you can stay with me and dive a little deeper into this. Because it came to pass. Remember in the Bible, about 480, and please know that I didn't sit and count all of them, but I found this on the internet, about 480 times the stories in the Bible started with, it came to pass. Because it did. It came to pass. Can we allow ourselves to be fully present through those life experiences, to hang at the door of the guest house that Rumi wrote about and welcome all of the emotions and all of the experiences in, and recognize that we are always loved, always nurtured, always supported through these experiences? So why does it matter? Well, do you have a junk drawer? And you don't have to raise your hand, but do you have a junk drawer at your house? I know, right? Or maybe it's a closet, or maybe it's a room, or maybe it's a storage facility. Oh, that we would have thought about that and bought land and built self-storage places. Oh my goodness. So the drawer in the kitchen that's where the switch plates are for the paint job before last, that we better keep those because you just don't know. That's where the 9 tape measures are. I have no idea how my tape measures wind up in the junk drawer, but they're all there. I think the dog maybe moves them, I'm not sure. But the hammer, the who knows what. The same thing. And when you open the drawer, because ideally it's not packed so tightly, you open the drawer and everything shifts. The same thing happens with our emotions that we don't allow ourselves to feel. So in the drawer, there's that anger, there's that grief, there's that hurt. And we open the drawer from another experience and something rises to the top. I believe that that's where road rage comes from, is not allowing ourselves to feel those human emotions that we need to feel. That's why the Ben & Jerry's that I was only going to eat half of wound up being completely gone. Now see, that's the exception because, as you well know, Ben & Jerry's or Talenti or whoever your ice cream of choice is, it's not as good after you open it, so you really need to eat the whole thing because the leftovers they're just not as good. But the bottle of wine that you were going to only drink a glass of, or that money you were saving for your vacation, and 2 o'clock in the morning you can't sleep and you just might actually happen to have the Amazon app on your phone. I wonder if Amazon has that. Of course Amazon has that. And we wind up spending the money at Amazon for stuff that we could have lived very happily without, instead of saving that for our vacation. Unprocessed and unexpressed emotions show up in surprising and wonderful ways. And so we have the opportunity to look at that, to feel it, so we can heal it and move forward. Because you remember the saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. We're still chopping, we're still carrying. So I have to tell you, it's been an amazing experience. It's been almost 6 years for me. And I had the thoughts, because I was of a certain age when he died, and I had the thoughts that you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. It will never be the same. And it's so important for us to recognize that it will never be the same. Whether it's a death, whether it's leaving a job, either by our choice or not, it will never be the same, but it can be wonderful again if we allow it to, if we allow ourselves to feel our grief and our loss so that we can be open to it and move on to the next experience that life has for us. So again, we're going to do a deeper dive into this afternoon. We'll have pens. We'll see if we can find some Kleenex boxes, because if I don't make you cry, I have not done my job. And would love it if you would stay and join me for that. And we'll be on Zoom as well as in this very room. I would like to close with a quote from Facebook, of all places, not specifically, but it was something that I saw. I love and adore Facebook. Now, I have no financial attachment to Mark Zuckerberg or Meta or Facebook or any of that, but it's just the most amazing experience because you just get the greatest wisdom, and you also have the opportunity to keep scrolling. So if it doesn't light you up, if it doesn't make your tail wag, just keep scrolling. Life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful is ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living. Heartbreaking, soul-healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. Thank you all so much. Namaste.